Aglaea is here, or at least she would be here by the time this video is out, and this should mark the beginning of that usual Star Rail meta shift where a new playstyle comes into the game and will become something that the endgame section will begin to torture you with. But instead of pulling for her, I want to actually take this chance to see if I can test myself because, as a lot of Star Rail players would know, one of the biggest gripes people outside the community has with this game is how much it seemingly forces you to pull and keep up with the meta just so that you don't fall behind when it comes to full clearing the endgame. While I seldom encounter this with the characters that I already have, I decided, you know what? Let me see if I'd struggle through this new phase of summon mechanics within the endgame rotations if I don't go for any Amphoreus characters. Albeit, I thought this was good timing anyway since my savings was kinda wiped by the Herta and her light cone, and I wanted to see if I can go back to just saving up for the Fate collab that should be coming this July. And yes, I am well aware that there is a high chance that there will be no gacha aspect involved within the collab, especially considering how Hoyo collabs usually goes, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and just have a decent amount of savings ready to pull if there happens to be a collab banner. If it turns out that there is no banner, then I just wait it out and use it on the Amphoreus reruns or actually get some of the older characters that I've been wanting, so it would be no biggie. I'm not all that big on the summon playstyle in the first place. There's a reason why my Topaz and Jingyuan, despite one of them actually having a decent build, is just shafted for eternity. In any case, I think this would be interesting to see through because this is kind of a bigger shift compared to the ones we saw before, seeing as Memo Sprites and Summons are still kind of a niche playstyle, especially considering the lack of support dedicated to outright buffing this sort of playstyle, which is also sort of what we kind of felt back in the time where follow-up attack was still kind of sucky, before it basically became the alleged king of all playstyles in the current general stretch of things. Essentially, this challenge, other than it being a fun little test and saving mechanic for myself, will also be a dive into exploring some of the question marks that a lot of people think Star Rail still needs to sort of answer. One is of course, will the endgame be highly restricted in usable mechanics and playstyles, as a loud part of the community have shouted when it comes to this particular section of the game, once this new playstyle hits the market? And two, will Star Rail be able to implement buffs and mechanics within those endgame sections that will not only make sure to showcase where the summons or memo sprites can shine, but also make sure that the old units will not just be left flailing helplessly as activating mechanics that only summons can trigger become the thing that would enable players to full clear endgame content without losing their sanity. Particularly amongst all the endgame content, I want to see how the MOC will be conducted throughout this transitory phase of easing summons more and more into the general scope of things, since that mode is the one that purely tests your builds and the efficiency of your teams. And this also has everything to do with how I've been generally playing my account. Let me just get one thing out of the way real quick. Despite what voluntarily putting myself in this test would imply, I am not at all a meta player. I think the list of characters that I have favorited in my character list should be enough to tell you guys what type of player I am, and I generally pull for characters that interest me through the lore first, before considering how I would really put them into the teams that I like playing in the game. I just think of this challenge as killing two birds with one stone, you know, with the other half being the saving my bank and all, and I genuinely am interested in seeing if the way I've maintained my account had been productive enough to make sure that I'd be able to keep up with the game's mechanical progressions. Because honestly, being someone who mostly buys the monthly pass and early battle passes and only tops up when they were insanely desperate, I think I've prioritized my pulls in a pretty decent manner. Thankfully, my luck is not horrendous in this game, and while I technically lose quite a decent amount of 50-50s, I generally get the second 5-star either rather early or well within the savings that I've mostly procured for said character. And I've also had quite a decent amount of times where my luck decided to proc for Eidolons instead, so my roster of characters have a bit of a glamorous but still somewhat realistic shine to it. I've also managed to build most of my characters up to the point where I can just have set teams, and instead of strategizing different endgame sections, I have full faith that they shouldn't at least get whacked into oblivion, and basically leave my teams to just go at it on auto battle. This is always my target whenever I pull for certain characters. I want to see if I can build them to a point where they can just be put within a team that can clear their designated endgame content without having to have any input from me. Cause unlike a lot of gachas with auto battle out there, Star Rail's auto battle is actually a surprisingly competent piece of fighter. Now, do I think that this sort of account is representative of what your average Star Rail player will have at their disposal to sufficiently go through the meta with ease? Honestly, my answer would be probably not. Admittedly, I did get an abnormally insane start. I got Bronya, Seele, Bailu, and Yanqing with the free tickets we got during launch, but I had a series of bad luck strewn across my time of never missing a day playing this game and huge commitment pulls that saw me aim to get E6 of my two favorite characters in the game being Kafka and Jingliu. Kafka was rough. I had to use up everything and then maybe spend around $200 or $300 while Jingliu was thankfully helped by this sheer stroke of luck that finally told me where all my 3 years of Genshin luck had run off to. However, considering the fact that these characters are no longer ones that you might consider to be as the most performant in the eyes of the meta, God knows how much pain it had caused me to see my Yandere Queen fall off the charts in the past, I don't know how many patches. I'm more inclined to assume that I'd be using characters that I can more safely say to be more within the realm of your average Star Rail Joe. But just to be safe, especially in Kafka's case since she is still a whole lot more usable than Jingliu, I put up a vote on my channel community tab that should be up around the same time as this video, which would determine if I'd get to use her as much as I want to, or if her usage in this challenge would either be limited or prohibited, so feel free to give it a vote. The rest of my limited characters are mostly E0, bar from Fei Xiao and Acheron who got a taste of that luck that I mentioned before, and are character statuses that I think most people can easily get to, especially if you're a monthly pass buyer like me. Their builds themselves, apart from my Fei Xiao, are all honestly pretty average and maybe even painfully so for some of you out there. My relic rolls are usually equivalent to that of dog secretion, so all things considered, it's just poo. And like I said, I don't have a whole lot of summon-centric characters that would be ready to face this new meta head-on. My Topaz is about the only one who I think is anywhere near being battle-ready, while my Jingyuan had literally just been shafted off his relics and light cone for Himeko, before she had both of those things be shafted for Mini Herta, also that the Herta can fight with her full potential. I also Frankenstein the Herta's relics from pieces that was originally meant for Jingliu, so her build was kind of all over the place to begin with. I didn't pull for Lingsha cause Gallagher was still doing great work on the job that I would have pulled her for. I didn't pull for Aventurine cause I hated follow-up attack honestly, and I didn't pull Sunday cause I was prepping for the Herta. I actually haven't even gotten Remembrance Trailblazer cause I just been swamped by other games and have not been able to push through that 10-hour story. And like the point of the challenge, I will not be pulling for the Amphoreus characters. Actually, slight correction. I will be pulling for Castoris because, like, goddamn, she just pulls a freaking dragon from some sort of pocket dimension. Like, I have priorities, and that has just easily became one of them. But the caveat will just be as simple. Until the Fate collab is done and dusted, I will not be touching Castoris. Not that it is canonically recommended anyway, and I will only farm for her stuff but will not level her up nor build her in any capacity. There is only one strict rule for this thing, and that is to not use any Amphoreus characters whatsoever. Hopefully, the rest of my roster will be all fair game to go up against the new shift in endgame playstyle. Now, for those of you who just wanna check back every now and then, I will be uploading monthly update videos on endgame rotations in regards to this challenge. For those of you who want to check back a bit more regularly, I will try to be streaming a lot of my progress on my Twitch channel, so feel free to give it a follow, and I should be streaming there once I get my setup settled. Well, hopefully soon enough, so come say hi. That's about all I have for this video. I'm interested to see how this all will pan out, and considering the fact that we are having a quite niche section of Star Rail's playstyles get an expansion that I'm probably less than equipped to be facing head on, but that's where the fun of it all will come from. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and maybe tell me down there if some of you want to take on this little fun test on your own. Thank you all for watching, and until the next video, the name's Leafy, and I'll see y'all next time. Sayonara.